All right, so I think we're caught up, and now we'll have some special music from the choir.
This stupid cold is really bothering me. Just won't go away. We're going to continue in our church life series. And we're going through the church's revelation and really not going through examining all the contextual elements of it. What we're doing is just looking at what they were struggling with and what was causing, what did Jesus write to them? And this week is the dead church, which is probably not what you want to hear Jesus write to you in a letter. Not the coolest thing to be identified as the dead church. And it was Sardis was actually the most powerful town or city that Jesus wrote to, John wrote to in Revelation. And so there's already a kind of a tension between their identity and where they lived. And they had, like Laodicea had all the stuff, but Sardis had all the other stuff. It was just a bigger city. It was like Houston and, or what's it, Indianapolis and New York City. Indianapolis is a killer city, but New York is like stupid big. And so that's what Sardis was. And so what Jesus wrote to them, amongst other things, and I wrote out the whole thing in your paper, but we're only going to focus on a little. Jesus wrote, he said, I know all the things you do, and that you have a reputation for being alive, but you're dead. And again, that's an odd statement to make. You have a reputation for being one thing, but you're exactly opposite. And so other churches, right, remember it said, you know what, you got to remember your first love. You're being too tolerant. You're compromising. Things like that. You're a little lukewarm. Neither not hot or cold. Get on, take a path. But to be called dead is like next level. It's you think you're alive. Actually, that word reputation, people think you're alive, but you're dead. And so that word reputation is something that gets inside under the human skin, right? We worry a lot about what other people think of us. We go after the applause, and we want to make sure that we look how we want people to think about us. I'm going to put on the clothes that make me look how I want the people to think about me, manipulate their thoughts at some level. And so it seems to me like this is the point that Jesus is trying to make to this church. Your reputation is solid, but you're dead. And then you can start to see the tension a little more. You can start to see the contrast a little more. What people thought of the church had become the most valuable part of their gathering together. And what Jesus thought of the church had become to the point where it was extinct. You're doing nothing for me. You've successfully cut me out of the equation in your life. And so that's hard to hear. That's hard to hear for a church. And this is what I want to point out, in case anybody feels like, wow, that's pretty heavy. It says, there are some in the church, he says, yet there are some in the church who have not soiled their clothes with evil. And this just points out a difference. You can go to a dead church and still follow Jesus. Your church doesn't identify you. Being a member doesn't identify you except for your intention to love this church and love the people in it. Your church has nothing to do with who you are in relationship with Jesus. Absolutely nothing. Because what you have here is a corpse of a church, yet people who are inside the church are still alive. Church is always going to be a gathering, never a building. It's a gathering. And so what happens is you go, well, how can this be? What's going on? And normally it's leadership. In fact, the letter was written to the messenger of the church of Sardis. And the messenger is whoever, not me, whoever the leaders are. Whoever decides philosophically how the church is going to sway. Whoever decides in terms of what you're going to prioritize as what the most important thing is about your church. And the people in Sardis had decided that they wanted to look good to the community. And I'm not against that. You need conversations you don't want the conversations in the community to go, hey, they're a bunch of donkeys. It's just but what was going on is they were getting the praise that they so looked for. That's what they were after. They were leading the church down a road so that it could look good in the spotlight. And the real temptation of any church, especially leadership and leading, and you as being members of your church, the temptation is hypocrisy. And we all know what a hypocrite is, but for your benefit, I will tell you again. A hypocrite is not a person. A hypocrite is a mask. The Greeks in their theater it's a Greek word, they wore hypocrites. So if you're playing a certain character, you would grab a mask, put it over your face, so no one could see who you really are. They would see who you're trying to be in the context of that stage. And it doesn't matter if you act in theater or whatever you do. If you're a football player, be a football player on the field, mean, aggressive, all that. Don't be that in Walmart. You know what I mean? You have to be engaged in certain areas of your life. So what we're talking about specifically is God, and talking about Jesus, and leading a church, or being a follower in a church. This is what this is about. That's what Jesus called them, hypocrites, always to the leaders, always to the religious people. So they tell you that they're representing God. And then they tell you what you must do. And if you're truly representing God, you have to be humble enough to say, it's not on me, dude. Jesus rose from the dead. You got to play with it in your mind the way you need to play with it in your mind. You're not getting nothing from me except I'm telling you that Jesus rose from the dead, and what I've studied has proven to me through prayer and other things that I am basing my life on that decision. I can't make that decision for you. So that the temptation is to begin to act like you know more than other people. And by know, I mean that you've figured out how other people need to be and act. And that's not right. In fact, Jesus says it's being godless. That's really at the core of the word hypocrisy, is being godless. To take a stance against the freedom of Jesus, to take a stance against the equality and the humility and the mercy and the forgiveness that we must have for each other. And that's kind of what Jesus is saying. That's what was kind of going on in Sardis. They were acting one way to receive the accolades of the people. And it wasn't who they were. And so you have a Jesus call that says, don't be a hypocrite. Don't act like the people who pray so everybody can see them on street corners. They get all the reward they need. When you pray, go in your closet. Don't look for the spotlight. He says, when you're a hypocrite, if you make sure everybody knows how much money you gave, that's all the reward you get. Is what people say about you, how wonderful you are. You don't need to show it off. You're a servant. God has granted you this life and has promised to validate it by blessing you as you continue to serve and to understand and have the peace. Jesus said in Matthew 23:27, sorry, that's my typo. Oh, wow. I'm a human. Dang. Says, Jesus was talking to the Pharisees, the leaders. He says, what sorrow awaits you, teachers of religious law, and you Pharisees, godless men? For you are like whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside, but filled with the bones of dead people. And that's what it is. You forget you're a tomb. Like, well, just make it look really nice. The thought that the outside matters more than the inside. What people say about you matters more than who you are, to the point where you become dead and separated from God because all you cater to is what people think of you. That's death, because you stop to be who you are. You don't even know who you are. You forget. You become what the world wants you to be. What the world has decided that you should be. And that's what a dead church looks like. But here, let's watch a hypocrite in action. Wait, do you guys know this movie? Everyone knows Groundhog Day, right? They live this day. He lives one day over and over again. And in fact, if you think about living one day over and over again and never aging, you can do whatever you want. You can pursue whatever you want. And that's kind of what the movie explores, how we lead our lives. Oops. This is always the hardest part for me. Dang. Oh, man. I don't know what that little tooth... Oh, the cloud. Let's see what's up. I don't know why it's not working. I'll be honest with you. Shoot. It's not on the cloud. Oh well. It's such a great scene. I'm so sad. It's like, now I have to explain it. Forget it. Well, I don't know why it's not clouding with me. Huh. Oh, wait a second. I got an idea. Oh, well, it would take too long. Sorry. I got an idea. We're going to do this. Do 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 yeah do 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 do. Oh well. Anyway, did you remember the scene? Right? He goes up, and every day, every little part of this thing represents one day. First day is, can I buy you a drink? So what does he do? He orders like a straight, double, triple shot of Jack Daniels, and she orders some sweet vermouth with a lime twist. So the next scene, he shows up, and he asks, what do you drink? And he says, I want a sweet vermouth with a lime twist. And because he's trying to play her. He has no intention of trying to get her. Understand her. He has no intention of trying to love her. He loves himself. And that's a hypocrite. He's wearing a mask. He wants to play. And it goes on, and there's just a great scene. The last scene, they're in a restaurant at a Oktoberfest, ordering beers, and he says, well, what did you study in college? And she goes, oh, French poetry. And he goes, oh, what a waste of time. And it's like she's horrified, never going to see her again. Next scene is him, same thing, and she goes, well, what do you study in college? Ah, French poetry. And he just looks up and he's all, oh, so. Like he'd gone and studied French just so he could fool her. He didn't want to learn French. He's a hypocrite. He doesn't love French. He doesn't love her. He's afraid. It's just himself. And that's what happens. That's what the world wants you to be. They want you to take your world into God's world and act like you can fool God. We can fool each other. No problem. You just act one way. You just play whatever game you want to play. And then it's on the person to go, well, whatever. And this is what Jesus said about people who worship him in that way. This is actually from Isaiah. This is God speaking to the Jews. But Jesus incorporated it into the people that were following him. He said, these people say they are mine. I'm a follower of Jesus, Sardis. They honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. And isn't that an interesting way that he put it? Because if you think about Romans 10:10, the thing we like to always say, if you say with Jesus that I love Jesus with my lips, I'm going to follow Jesus with my lips and honor him in your heart, then you are saved. And you get all these people across the United States and the world, you just have to say it on a beach chair at some conference, while you're sucking down on Subway sandwiches and Diet Coke, you say, yeah, I believe in Jesus. And so you're saved. Because you can say anything with your lips. But this is the part right here. Their hearts are far from me. They honor me with their lips. I am a follower of Jesus. But your hearts are far from me. And so I would be very cautious about promising people that they are in the good ship, lollipop, when you don't know their hearts. You don't even know your heart, if you're honest. You don't even know your heart. Jesus knows your heart. God knows your heart. The formulaic way of doing church, that's what's going on with Sardis. They're dead. They're dead. There's a few people that are alive, but as a church, he's warning them. And their worship of me is nothing. But they teach man-made traditions learned by rote as commands of God. They teach that their traditions are so valuable that they'll separate over them. Man-made. They told us to gather and to be organized in the Bible. That was it. And yet I go into 99% of the churches across the U.S. and it'll look just like this. And no one thinks that's insane. That's McDonald's theology. You have a relationship with Jesus, the creator of the universe. You are unique. We're supposed to love people, not churches. We're not supposed to love buildings. We love people. But we teach people. We teach people to love the building. We teach people to love the formula. We teach people to love the easyism of it. You don't have to know Jesus. Shoot, just got to say these things. It's all good. Your heart doesn't have to be in it. That's why Sardis is dead. Dead church. They teach it, and they learn it by rote. And that's always a cool word, because it sounds really smart if you say it. But the reality is, rote is to learn something and able to repeat it, not to understand it. Just do what I tell you to do. You don't need to know why. Just do it and you're good. And that's kind of what we always want as people, right? Just, can you please, following Jesus, can you just give me 5 things that I got to do, and then everything will be good and I can get back to watching the damn game? Right? I just want to do my work. I just want to do this. This following Jesus confuses me. I want to watch more YouTube videos. I want to watch more Facebook stuff. I need more movies. I want to drink more. Dang. Right? That's learning by rote. You just do it over. You learn guitar by rote. You don't have to understand music. You just got to know this is a D chord. Put your fingers here and you're done. And you do it over and over and over and over until it's muscle memory. Well, what's a D chord? I don't know. That's what they called it. I don't need to know music. I just know this is a D chord, and I grow my hair long and get tattoos. That's learning by rote. Like there's a method to following Jesus where if you just do these things, he doesn't care if you know him or not. He's that dumb. I can fool him. It's like, no, you're just, make sure you know you're just choosing not to follow Jesus. That's all this message is. Just make sure you know the choices you're making. Am I following a tradition or am I following Jesus? Are they the same thing or are they different? Because if I'm following a tradition and someone's not like me, I hate them. Because this is a command of God that I live this way. And that's what happened in Sardis. That's what a dead church is. Dead teaching is like that. See, they teach man-made traditions. It's not like they just roll off of a shelf. They teach man-made traditions as commandments. Like God commanded you to do this. It's not so. Just be honest. That's the thing. Really, you guys came up with this look? This is how your church looks? Well, no. Yeah, we got together, we went to McDonald's, and we sat down and tried to figure out a way that our church should look to display our uniqueness and our love of God. It's like, wow, that's funny because that guy over in New York, 20,000 miles that you've never met, he's doing the exact same thing. Must be the Holy Spirit. There's no freedom in God. There's no uniqueness in God. Following Jesus is just a zombie-like march towards eternity. That's what learning by rote is. That's a dead church. But Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. That's your hope. That's your only hope. Anyone who believes in Jesus will live even after dying. That's the promise. That's the promise of following Jesus. There's not a lot else in there. There's no standard of behavior that's written down for us, unfortunately, that says, if you do this, you are saved. It's, do you believe that Jesus rose from the dead? do you believe that Jesus rose from the dead? That's it. And that's what you have to ask yourself. That's what I have to ask myself all the time. And I'm not trying to put it on you. I'm not trying. What I have to ask myself is, do I believe in Jesus or do I believe in some system? Do I believe in Jesus or do I believe in some label? Do I believe in Jesus or do I just believe in me and Jesus drinks like I do, Jesus plays like I do, Jesus likes the same music I do, Jesus votes the same way I do, Jesus wears the same clothes I do, Jesus speaks the same language I do, Jesus has the same skin color as I do, Jesus is Irish. Of course he's Irish, duh. I mean, that's really all. That's all he's asking the Sardis. He says, your works we need to work on your works. Okay, it seems like you're working for the crowd, like you're trying to work the crowd. Maybe we got to dial that back a little and start thinking about me. Repent is what it's called. Change your mind. Change your mind. And you'll live, even after dying. That's the promise. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be something you just figure out in one sitting. It's supposed to be a struggle because we have an opponent. But because he lives, segue, song number 275, I can face tomorrow. That was pretty good. That was a good segue. Okay. Benediction. That's your mind. That is your mind. All those little sheepy thoughts that we have that we don't question about what we do, what we wear, how we act. I'm all into traditions, dude. I love going out shopping at Christmas time. Coolest thing ever. Christmas songs, Christmas food. I'm a sheep. I ain't gonna go, I went down that road, found it doesn't matter. But there's a thought in your brain that's looking to kill you. There's a thought in your brain that is looking to take you away from Jesus. You'll become bitter, cynical, judgmental, unmerciful, unforgiving, self-righteous, think you know everything. And it looks like that. Dressed like a little sheep. Like you start, hey, I'm right. What, I know what's going on. Just simple little phrases where you start to separate from everybody else. And he just sits there in your mind. My prayer for all of us, especially me, is that I don't give into it. That I don't give into it. That I always remember this. I'm the resurrection and the life, Jesus said. Anyone who believes in me will not die. He'll live even after dying. But I have to live with this dude. He's in there. He's in all of us. You can't hide it. And you have to struggle with it. And he looks just like Sardis died. Sardis was a dead church. There were people that were alive in it, but as a church, Jesus still gave them a chance. The Good Shepherd. Listen for his voice. That's my prayer for you this week. Have a good week. Oh wait, we have to sing Happy Trails.
Y'all have a good Thanksgiving. You too. You going in? Are you traveling